What's up, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. Some interesting stuff, some interesting battling and commentary going on in the conservative commentator space, particularly Ben Shapiro taking a pretty big shot at Benny Johnson yesterday. And really, for the past week or so, Benny Johnson taking an enormous amount of heat for not just platforming. I mean, some people are complaining about him even talking to this individual, but in Ben's words, for not being hard enough on Mr. Tate. I think that, Ben Shapiro put out a video last night. Benny Johnson has been getting a lot of heat for like the last week. People saying, hey, as a Christian man and a father to daughters, how can you possibly platform this individual? I want to discuss it because I do think I don't love it. Generally, when anybody says, how can you platform? They're generally a loser who's really just mad that you didn't censor somebody. I think there is a fair amount of consideration or conversation to have around whether or not you embrace an individual. I think, the man's past is dicey at best. I've always been on the innocent until proven guilty kind of standpoint. But I think there's an interesting discussion here. All the heat that Benny's taking, Ben choosing yesterday to kind of re-inflame everything and go after Candace Owens. It's a little weird to me. I want to thank everyone who yesterday subscribed to Quartercast. I think we added like 1,500 subscribers. We're working really, really hard to get to 100,000 there. It's our daily live show. I'm live, for example, today with Melanie Mack and Hannah Claire Brimlow. But we also have Luke Rodkowski, Styx Hexenhammer, Gothics, and more regularly every single day on the show. We're live at 1 Eastern, both on our Quartercast channel on YouTube and on Rumble. I sincerely hope wherever you are, if you're open to trying Rumble, downloading the Rumble app, please watch us there. But if you're, hey, I'm only on YouTube, that's cool. Please give our show a chance. We're really, really trying hard to get to 10,000 concurrent viewers by my birthday, which I think we can do if we hit 100,000 subscribers on Quartercast. Give us a chance. We're making more palatable clips now every day. So if you missed the show, you can watch that. Link in the description. Please check it out. Now, I know that, I have been critical of Ben Shapiro in the past, maybe for different reasons, and some other people have been critical about Ben Shapiro in the past. In my opinion, Ben Shapiro likes to pretend that he is counterculture, that he faces the same censorious battles that every other, nobody creator has to face. That's simply not true. He's had dinner with Mark Zuckerberg. The Daily Wire spends millions of dollars on Facebook promoting Ben Shapiro. He's probably the biggest, content creator in our space on Facebook by a country mile. This guy has never really had to face any level of censorship in his whole life. So it's generally when he's like, hey, it's one of us, I never really, believe that. He also, remember, famously said, get the jab, dopes, or something like that. He also loves his war, and he loves putting his homeland in front of America. These are just a few of the critiques I have for Ben Shapiro. Now, maybe he's right about Andrew Tate. He uploaded a video yesterday that was relatively well received with about a 90% upvote, rate. But I thought it was curious how he very clearly is going after Benny Johnson here, which I thought was very weird.
He sort of runs around with his shirt off with fancy cars and good-looking women and smokes cigars and says some things that are sort of useful critiques of the left, but mostly says crazy stuff online. And he has generated an enormous following, So Benny Johnson had on Andrew Tate, and he also had on at the same time Alina Habba, who is a counsel for the Trump team.
Yeah.
And Alina Habba was really praising Tate, and so was Benny Johnson. And this erupted into a controversy. Here's what that sounded like.
Nice to meet you. I'm a big fan.
Well, nice to meet you. I'm a fan. You're the one saving Trump. You're doing more important work than me.
America, not just Trump. And I agree with everything you just said. And I think that you're anger is the same that President Trump has for our country, and the time is now for us to stop being wimps. I think that's exactly the right sentiment. And I also have to say that I sympathize with you, because I think you go through a lot of the same show me the person, I'll find the crime that President Trump has gone through.
Okay, what Alina Habba is saying there is not actually true about Andrew Tate. He is not of the same ilk as President Trump. Find me the person and I'll find you the crime. That is true of President Trump. That is not particularly true of Andrew Tate. And Russell Brand.
Now, to be fair, Andrew Tate, as of today, had his house arrest, his house arrest lifted today. As far as I know, he has not been found guilty of anything. Now, you can point to a lot of the evidence and conversations and even some of the things that he has said personally as things you disagree with or things that are wrong. But I do think it's weird that we're doing these videos again now where we're saying, hey, you should or shouldn't platform somebody. You can talk about his crypto thing. You could talk about his Hustlers University, and I think that those are extremely valid criticisms. I don't understand a lot about crypto, but generally if somebody like CoffeeZilla comes out and says something's shady, then it generally is. But I think to go after Benny Johnson, it seems weird.
And of course, rushed to the defense of all of this. Russell Brand then suggested that anyone who objected.
What's wrong with Russell Brand? So now Ben Shapiro is also bringing in Russell Brand. So Ben Shapiro going after Benny Johnson, Russell Brand. I mean, the thing about Russell is he has never hid his past. He's never hid who he is or the mistakes that he's made. So I don't really understand why Ben Shapiro would be mad about that.
To the treatment of Andrew Tate on the right, that they needed to sort of check their problems at the door. Here was what Russell had to say.
Someone like Andrew Tate, with the audience he has, could make a significant difference if correctly backed. He does say some stuff that's pretty out there. But the fact is, in a democracy, if someone is able to glean popular support, they can have a mandate. They should be represented. I suppose what's more significant and interesting to me is the way that figures like Andrew Tate or Tommy Robinson have always been maligned, I think, to place an impassable threshold around systems of influence and power. You can have your own views of Andrew Tate. You might think he's misogynistic or vulgar, but the fact is he appeals to a lot of people and he represents some things that a lot of people are very interested in.
Okay, so I think that the way that some people are defending Andrew Tate today is a conflation of a couple of different ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a big difference between having people on, have whoever you want on. That's totally fine. Free speech and all the rest. That's totally fine. And cheering on bad people.
What he's basically saying is, I believe in free speech, but
people who don't actually care about your principles. And Andrew Tate is the latter. Now, again, let me say right at the outset, I am not upset at all with anyone actually just interviewing Andrew Tate. Go for
yes, you are. You made an entire video about Benny Johnson.
it. Have at it. There are tons of excellent questions to ask Andrew Tate, but none of these people are asking Andrew Tate any of those questions. Instead, a lot of people are sort of glomming onto his very online popularity in order to get clicks. And
I don't think Ben knows the motivation of what Benny Johnson cares about, or Candace cares about, or Russell Brand cares about. I don't think he really knows these people. Here you have, Mark Dice saying clickbait Benny Johnson cares about one thing and one thing only, the clicks. That might be true. That might be true. I don't know Benny on a personal level. I've been on his show a few times, but I do think it's a little weird. First of all, to ignore some of the stuff that Tate's done in the past, right? With his Hustlers University and some of this other kind of stuff like that. But you could just not embrace him. You could watch Benny Johnson and not have a meltdown. You could not start basically this campaign where people are like, oh my God, Benny Johnson had somebody on his show and he didn't make it a hostile environment. How can we, how can we possibly square this? You see a lot of people pointing out, Clinton Russell, you supported the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. not just the initial invasion, but over a decade later. If we're dumping people from the right, well, maybe. I mean, Ben Shapiro isn't exactly the model citizen in terms of what I would call somebody on the right either. If you look at Benny Johnson's stream, it is overwhelmingly positive with a 90% positive, rate. There are some people in here who push back saying, hey, Christians supporting Tate make as much sense as queers for Palestine. I can understand that position. But I think that it's still worth hearing what somebody has to say. It's still worth having conversations. You can see in Benny's comments, not impressed with Tate, be careful who you interview. I usually agree with you, Benny. I enjoy watching your channel. However, put President Trump on and this man in the same picture or sentence as an insult to Trump. Benny had him on. The viewers that Benny has that didn't like it were able to voice their dislike in the comments. But I don't really see anybody in these comments saying, oh my God, you're hurting me by putting this out there. I think that it's you have to be careful with kind of, who you let in, but also the fact that Benny Johnson's getting this enormous amount of hate is wild. There's nothing but praising Tate, drawing parallels between him and Trump, zero pushback, zero hard-hitting questions. A lot of these people who are having meltdowns about Johnson interviewing Tate are the same people who, never liked Trump in the first place, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, tree of logic here. Tell me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are, Proverbs. I mean, Benny Johnson writes, he is without sin, cast the first stone. This was obviously in reference to the blowback he got for interviewing him. Jesus sat with people with sinful lives, but he didn't walk with or make excuses for them. He said to shake the dust out from our feet. Jesus was preventing men from committing terrible acts towards women. You chose this scripture to defend a known guy who, is terrible with women. I don't have an issue with Benny interviewing Tate. I think you can dislike both of them. You can like one, you can like other. I don't necessarily buy that Ben Shapiro's criticism is really genuine here. I think he's butthurt. That's how it comes across to me. I'm sure that Ben Shapiro could have Andrew Tate on anytime he wants and they could discuss. A lot of this comes from Ben, his positions with Israel, and Andrew Tate and his positions with Israel. Yet the entire time, Ben does not admit that. So again, I don't necessarily love this, hey, we need to embrace this guy or that guy. I think I'll just make my own opinions. Just because Andrew, has made some decisions I disagree with in the past, doesn't mean I wouldn't welcome an interview. I wouldn't, talk to him about what he's doing now. Maybe he's repented, that's a thing. Maybe he's changed his life around, this kind of stuff. So I get it. Being mad at Benny, I think, is misplaced. But I'm interested in what you have to say in the comment section down below. We'll, of course, talk about this on today's live stream with Melanie Mack, who is a devout Christian, and I'm going to ask her opinion of it too. So please do remember, link in the description. If you're a YouTube-only viewer, please help me reach 100,000 subscribers over on Quartercast. It's a very important goal of ours in 2024. We're working really hard as a team. Give the show a chance, and maybe if you don't like the show, you can at least watch the clips. Those are always good. And help us reach 100K. And if you're open to it, download the Rumble app and watch our show at 1 o'clock on Rumble, because that's where I would prefer everybody watch, because Rumble is, of course, my official home. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll talk to you again real soon.